The gold band glinted in the afternoon sun as Owen Hayes knelt in the dirt outside the trading post in Fort Bowie, Arizona Territory, and he knew immediately that someone's world had just fallen apart. It was July of 1878, and the heat pressed down like a heavy blanket over everything. Owen had been tending to his horse when he spotted the ring half buried near the hitching post, its simple elegance at odds with the rough frontier town around it. He brushed off the dust and examined the inscription inside. Forever bound, June 1877. Just over a year old, this marriage. He tucked it into his vest pocket and stood, his eyes scanning the dusty street for anyone who might be searching frantically for lost treasure. The trading post door swung open, and a woman emerged, her dark hair falling loose from its pins, her face flushed with what looked like either anger or tears or both. She wore a simple calico dress that had seen better days, and she moved with the kind of rigid determination that spoke of someone holding themselves together by sheer will alone. She did not look down at the ground. She did not appear to be searching for anything at all. Owen watched as she untied a tired-looking mare from the post and prepared to mount. Something made him call out to her. "Madam, excuse me," he said, approaching with his hat in his hand out of respect. "I found something here that might belong to you." She turned, and he saw her face clearly for the first time. She was young, probably no more than 22 or 23, with striking green eyes that held a depth of pain he recognized from his own mirror on hard days. There was a beauty to her that the frontier had not yet managed to wear away, though it was clearly trying. "I do not think so," she said, her voice steady but cold. "I have everything I need." Owen pulled the ring from his pocket and held it up. The sunlight caught it again, sending a small rainbow dancing across her face. Her expression changed instantly, a flash of something raw crossing her features before she locked it down again. "That is not mine," she said, but her left hand moved involuntarily to her right, where Owen could now see the pale band of skin on her ring finger that told a different story. "The inscription says it was given last June," Owen said gently. "And I can see from your hand that you wore a ring until recently." Her jaw tightened. "Then you should also be smart enough to understand that if I am not wearing it now, I do not want it back. I did not say you dropped it accidentally, madam. I am just trying to understand the situation." "The situation," she said, her voice rising slightly before she caught herself and lowered it again, "is none of your concern, Mr. Hayes. Owen Hayes. I have a ranch about 10 miles north of here, and you are right, it is not my concern. But I am holding a wedding ring that was clearly thrown away with intent, and you are the woman who threw it, and something about that makes me think maybe someone should at least ask if you are all right." She stared at him for a long moment, and he saw her walls start to crack. Her eyes grew bright with unshed tears, and she looked away quickly, blinking hard at the distant mountains. "My name is Tessa Anderson," she said finally. "And no, I am not all right, but I will be. Can I buy you a meal, Miss Anderson, or is it Mrs.? "It is Miss now," she said firmly. "As of about an hour ago." Owen nodded slowly, processing this. "Then let me buy you a meal, Miss Anderson, and you can tell me why that ring ended up in the dirt, or you can tell me nothing at all. Either way, you look like you could use a friend." Tessa studied him carefully. He was tall, probably in his late 20s, with dark hair and eyes the color of saddle leather. His face was honest, she thought, the kind that had seen hardship but had not let it make him cruel. There was a gentleness in how he held himself despite his obvious strength, and something in her wanted to trust that. "All right," she said quietly, "but I should warn you, it is not a pleasant story." They walked together to the small restaurant at the edge of town, a place that served simple fare to travelers and locals alike. Owen held the door for her, and they settled into a corner table away from the other patrons. When the food came, beef stew and fresh bread, Tessa realized how hungry she actually was. "I met Robert Anderson in Santa Fe," she began, stirring her stew without eating. "I was working as a seamstress there, had been since my parents died of fever 3 years ago. He was charming, well-dressed, said he owned property here in Arizona Territory. Said he wanted a wife, someone to build a life with. I was alone in the world and he made it all sound so beautiful." She paused to take a bite, and Owen waited patiently, not rushing her. "We married quickly. Too quickly, I suppose. Within a month of meeting, we had the ceremony and he brought me here to Fort Bowie. But there was no property. No land, no house, nothing he had promised. He had a room above the saloon, and that was where he expected me to live." Owen's expression darkened. What was his trade? Cards, mostly. He gambled, and when that did not work out, he did odd jobs. Sometimes he would disappear for days, and I learned not to ask where he went. But I tried to make it work. I took in sewing, tried to save money, thought maybe I could be the stable one and eventually we could afford something better. She finally met Owen's eyes, and he saw the shame there that she should not have to carry. Then I started noticing things going missing. Small things at first, a few coins from my sewing money, some fabric I had bought. Then last week, my mother's silver locket disappeared. It was the only thing I had left from her, and he sold it. Sold it for drinking money without even asking me. Her voice broke slightly on the last words, and she took a moment to compose herself. "This morning, he told me he had gambled away what little money we had left, including the rent on that miserable room. He said I should consider working at the saloon to help pay our debts." When I understood what he meant, what kind of work he was suggesting, I knew I could not stay. I packed what little I owned, took my horse and told him I was leaving. He laughed at me, said I was his wife and I would stay if he said so. That ring suddenly felt like a chain, so I took it off and walked out. "Did he try to stop you?" He grabbed my arm, but the barkeep intervened. "Mr. Wilson is a decent man, and he told Robert to let me go. I think he was ashamed enough not to make more of a scene." I stopped at the trading post to buy some supplies for the road, and when I came out, I looked at that ring in my hand and I just threw it as hard as I could. I did not want any reminder of him. Owen sat back, processing everything she had told him. "Where were you planning to go?" "I do not know. Tucson, maybe, or back to Santa Fe. Somewhere I can start over fine work. Those are long rides for a woman alone, and dangerous. More dangerous than staying with a man who sees me as property to be sold." She shook her head. "I will take my chances." Owen was quiet for a moment, then reached across the table and pushed the ring toward her. "Even if you do not want to keep it, you could sell it. That is gold and it would give you money for your journey." Tessa looked at the ring with distaste. "I suppose you are right. It just feels wrong somehow." "What feels wrong is how he treated you. The gold is just metal. It has no memory, no loyalty. It is worth something, and you should take that value with you." She picked up the ring reluctantly and slipped it into her dress pocket. "Thank you. For the meal and for listening. You did not have to do any of this. My mother raised me to believe that when you see someone in trouble, you help them. Simple as that." He paused, then seemed to come to a decision. "Miss Anderson, I have a proposition for you and I want you to hear me out before you answer." Tessa tensed slightly, and Owen saw it immediately. "Nothing improper," he said quickly. "I run a cattle ranch north of here. It is not much, but it is mine, paid for fair and square. I do well enough to get by, but the truth is, I could use help. I need someone to handle the household side of things, cooking, mending, that kind of work. In return, I would provide room and board, separate quarters, and fair wages. You would be an employee, nothing more, with complete freedom to leave whenever you chose. Why would you offer that to a stranger? Because you need a safe place to land and I need help, and maybe because I know what it is like to feel alone in the world. He held her gaze steadily. I lost my wife and baby daughter to cholera 4 years ago. Since then, I have been keeping my head down and working the ranch, but the house has felt empty. I am not looking for another wife if that is what you are worried about. I am not ready for that, and I can see plain as day that you are in no position to trust any man right now. But I am offering honest work and a safe place to stay while you figure out what comes next. Tessa studied him carefully, weighing his words against her experiences. Everything about Robert had been smooth and too good to be true, and she had learned that lesson the hard way. But there was something different about Owen Hayes. He did not make grand promises or try to sweep her off her feet. He was offering practical help with clear boundaries, and somehow that felt more trustworthy than any romantic declaration could have. I would want to see this ranch first, she said finally. And I would want your word that you meant what you said about separate quarters and freedom to leave. You have my word, Miss Anderson, and of course you should see the place before you decide. We can ride out there now if you like, and you can stay in town tonight and let me know your answer tomorrow. That seems fair. They finished their meal and collected their horses. The ride north took them through increasingly beautiful country, the desert giving way to grasslands dotted with cattle. The ranch itself sat in a valley with a small creek running through it, providing precious water for the livestock. The house was modest but well built, a sturdy log structure with a covered porch and real glass windows, which Tessa knew were expensive out here. Owen showed her around respectfully, keeping his distance and letting her explore. There was indeed a separate room off the kitchen that he said had been meant for hired help, with its own door to the outside and a bolt on the inside. The main house was dusty but well constructed, and she could see the signs of a woman's touch that had long since faded, a faded curtain here, a jar of dried flowers there. Your wife did the decorating, she asked gently. Sarah, yes, she had plans for this place, was going to make it a real home. I have not had the heart to change much since she passed. I am sorry for your loss, and I am sorry for yours, even if what you lost was not worth keeping. They walked back outside, and Owen pointed out the barn, the bunkhouse where his 2 ranch hands stayed, and the boundaries of his property. It was more than respectable, a true working ranch that showed signs of competent management. What are your hands going to think of you bringing a woman here? Tessa asked. Miguel and Tom are good men. I will make the situation clear to them, and they will treat you with respect or they will find work elsewhere. Simple as that. Tessa took a deep breath of the clean air, so different from the dust and noise of Fort Bowie. Something about this place felt right, felt safe. But she had trusted her instincts before and been wrong. I would like to take you up on your offer, she said carefully. But I want to be clear that I am taking you at your word. If things are not as you described, I will leave immediately. That is fair and smart. I would not expect anything less. Owen extended his hand, and after a moment, Tessa shook it. His grip was firm but careful, the handshake of someone sealing an honest deal. Then I suppose I am your new housekeeper, Mr. Hayes. Call me Owen. And welcome to the ranch, Tessa. They rode back to Fort Bowie as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Owen paid for Tessa to have a room at the boarding house for the night, a respectable place run by a widow named Mrs. Fletcher. He said he would return in the morning to help her move her few possessions to the ranch. That night, alone in her small, clean room, Tessa pulled the ring from her pocket and looked at it again. The inscription mocked her with its promise of forever. She thought about Robert, probably drunk in the saloon right now and felt a mixture of anger and relief. Then she thought about Owen Hayes, this stranger who had shown her more genuine kindness in one afternoon than her husband had in a year of marriage. She was taking a risk, she knew. But staying in Fort Bowie or trying to travel alone to Tucson or Santa Fe were also risks. At least this risk came with the possibility of stability and safety. She wrapped the ring carefully in a handkerchief and decided she would indeed sell it, but not here. She would wait until she felt more settled, then use the money to build her own future, whatever that might look like. The next morning, Owen arrived as promised with a small wagon. Tessa's possessions fit easily in the back, a sad testament to how little she had managed to accumulate in her 23 years. As they prepared to leave, Robert appeared at the end of the street, looking worse for wear but still angry. "Tessa," he called out, "you get back here. You are still my wife and you will do as I say." Owen stepped between them immediately, his posture casual but ready. The lady made her choice. "I suggest you respect it. This is none of your business, Cowboy. She belongs to me." "I belong to no one," Tessa said firmly, stepping around Owen to face Robert directly. "I gave you a chance and you threw it away. Now I am moving on and you cannot stop me. We are married. You cannot just leave. Watch me." She pulled the handkerchief from her pocket and threw it at his feet. "There is your ring. Sell it, keep it, throw it away again, I do not care. Consider it payment for whatever debts you think I owe you. We are done." Robert bent to pick up the handkerchief, and for a moment, Tessa thought he might actually try to force the ring back on her finger. But Owen's presence seemed to give him pause, and instead, he just laughed bitterly. "You will be back. When this does not work out, when you realize how hard it is out there, you will come crawling back." "I would rather die than come back to you," Tessa said quietly, and the certainty in her voice made Robert's face redden. Owen gently touched her elbow. "We should go." They climbed into the wagon, and as they rode away, Tessa felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. She looked back once and saw Robert still standing there, the handkerchief in his hand, looking smaller and more pathetic with every passing moment. Then she turned forward and did not look back again. The ride to the ranch took about an hour, and they spent it in comfortable silence at first. Then Owen began pointing out landmarks, telling her about the area, the neighbors, the challenges of ranching in this territory. His voice was calm and informative, never condescending, and Tessa found herself relaxing. When they arrived, the two ranch hands were waiting. Miguel was an older Mexican man with a weathered face and kind eyes. Tom was younger, probably only a few years older than Tessa, with red hair and an easy manner. Owen made the introductions and explained the situation simply and directly. "Miss Anderson will be managing the household here. She is an employee just like you two, and I expect her to be treated with complete respect. Are we clear?" "Yes, sir," they both said, and Tessa could see only welcome in their faces, no judgment or suspicion. "Miguel, your wife is a good cook. Maybe she could stop by sometime and show Miss Anderson where everything is in the kitchen. Help her get settled." "Rosa would be happy to," Miguel said with a warm smile. "She has been after me to tell you that you need someone to take care of this house properly. She will be very pleased." Over the next few weeks, Tessa settled into the rhythm of ranch life. Rosa did indeed come by, a round, cheerful woman who spoke a mixture of English and Spanish and who immediately took Tessa under her wing. She showed her where Owen kept supplies, how he liked his coffee, which shirts needed mending. More than that, she provided friendship at a time when Tessa desperately needed it. The work itself was demanding but satisfying. Tessa woke early to prepare breakfast for Owen and the hands, then spent her days cleaning, mending, cooking, and managing the household tasks that had been neglected for too long. Owen had been right about needing help. The house had fallen into a state of benign neglect, functional but joyless. Tessa found herself taking pride in bringing it back to life. She washed the dusty curtains and rehung them. She swept and scrubbed until the floors gleamed. She reorganized the kitchen and started baking bread, filling the house with warm smells that made the men smile when they came in for meals. She did it all methodically, never asking permission, just quietly making improvements. Owen noticed. He never said much, but she would catch him looking around with an expression of surprised pleasure, as if he was rediscovering his own home. He was respectful to a fault, never entering her room without permission, always knocking before coming into any space she occupied. He paid her wages promptly at the end of each week, exact to the penny. But despite his propriety, Tessa found herself growing more aware of him as time passed. She noticed how he treated his animals with gentleness, how he spoke to Miguel and Tom with respect regardless of their positions. She saw how hard he worked, often the first up and the last to bed. She observed how he spent his evenings reading by lamplight, gradually working through a small collection of books that showed a curious and educated mind. One evening about a month after her arrival, a storm rolled in with dramatic suddenness. The wind howled and the rain came down in sheets, and Tessa was worried about leaks in her newly cleaned house. She was checking the windows in the main room when Owen came in from securing the barn, soaked through despite his rain slicker. "Everything all right?" he asked, water dripping from his hat. "Yes, I was just worried about the windows, but they are holding fine." "That is good. I should change into dry clothes. I will make coffee. You look frozen." By the time Owen returned in dry clothes, Tessa had hot coffee waiting and had stoked the fire in the hearth. The storm raged outside, but inside it was warm and comfortable. They sat together in the main room, the first time they had really spent time together outside of meals. "This is nice," Owen said quietly, looking around. "What you have done with the place, I mean. It feels like a home again. I hope you do not mind that I made changes. I know it was your wife's house. Sarah would be happy to see it lived in properly again. She never would have wanted it to become a dusty shrine." He sipped his coffee. "You have a gift for making a place feel welcoming. I like the work. It feels good to build something, even if it is just a comfortable home." They talked more easily than they had before, the storm outside creating a sense of intimacy and safety. Owen told her about how he had come to Arizona Territory, working as a cowhand, until he had saved enough to buy this land. Tessa told him about her childhood in Santa Fe, her parents' small shop, the plans she had once had before fever took them both within a week of each other. "You still think about leaving?" Owen asked. "Going to Tucson or back to Santa Fe?" Tessa considered the question carefully. "I think about it less than I did. This is a good place, Owen. You have been more than fair with me. You have earned every penny and more. I want you to know that there is no pressure for you to stay if you want to move on, but if you wanted to stay longer, I would be glad of it." "I would like to stay," Tessa said, and realized she meant it. As summer turned to fall, Tessa found her life taking on a pleasant rhythm. The work was hard but meaningful, and she took satisfaction in the smooth running of the household. Owen remained respectful but increasingly friendly, and she found herself looking forward to their evening conversations. He had started teaching her to ride properly, patiently correcting her form and teaching her how to read the land. Miguel and Tom were good company, and Rosa became a true friend, visiting often and including Tessa in the small community of ranch families in the area. Tessa even attended a church social in Fort Bowie, though she avoided Robert, who she heard was still gambling and drinking away his life. One October afternoon, Owen returned from town with supplies and a thoughtful expression. Tessa was in the kitchen preparing supper when he knocked on the door frame. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" "Of course." "Is something wrong?" "No, nothing like that. I just ran into Judge Morrison in town. He mentioned that since you and Robert were never formally married in a church and only had a civil ceremony, and since Robert has made no effort to contest your leaving, it would be fairly simple to have the marriage annulled. Especially given his behavior and his suggestion that you work in the saloon." Tessa's heart skipped. "An annulment. It would make you legally free of him. No more worrying that he might show up with some claim on you. Morrison said he could handle it discreetly and it would not cost much." "I do not have much saved," Tessa said carefully, though she had been squirreling away her wages carefully. "I would cover the cost," Owen said quickly, then seemed to reconsider. "Not as charity. Consider it an advance against future wages if that sits better with you." "But I think you should do it, Tessa. You should be free of him completely." Tessa felt tears prick her eyes. "Why do you care so much about my situation?" Owen was quiet for a moment, then said simply, "Because you deserve better than what he gave you. And because I have come to consider you a friend, and I want to see you free and happy." The annulment was granted within a month. Judge Morrison handled everything efficiently, and one day in early November, Tessa received the papers that legally ended her marriage to Robert Anderson. She sat in her room that evening, holding the document, feeling like a weight she had been carrying had finally been lifted. There was a soft knock on her door. "Tessa, Rosa made tamales and brought enough for an army. Will you come celebrate with us?" She opened the door to find Owen standing there, a gentle smile on his face. He knew what the papers meant, even though she had not shown them to him. "I would like that," she said. The celebration was simple but joyful. Rosa and Miguel joined them, and they ate tamales and drank wine that Miguel had saved for a special occasion. There was laughter and music, with Miguel playing a guitar and Rosa singing in Spanish. Tom danced with Rosa, making her laugh with his clumsy attempts at the steps. Then Owen stood and offered his hand to Tessa. "Would you dance with me?" She hesitated only a moment before taking his hand. They moved together slowly, not quite touching except where necessary, but Tessa was intensely aware of his nearness. He was careful with her, his hand light on her waist, his movements gentle. It was the first time a man had held her with such respect and care, and she felt something shift inside her. When the evening ended and their guests had gone, Tessa and Owen found themselves alone on the porch, looking out at the star-filled sky. "Thank you," Tessa said quietly, "for everything. For finding that ring, for offering me this place, for helping with the annulment. You have given me my life back. You did that yourself. I just provided a safe place for you to land. It was more than that." She turned to look at him, studying his profile in the moonlight. "You showed me that not all men are like Robert. That there is such a thing as genuine kindness without strings attached." Owen met her eyes. "Tessa, I need to be honest with you about something." Her heart began to race. "All right. When I offered you this job, I meant what I said about it being just work, nothing more. I was not looking for anything beyond an employee, a housekeeper. But these past months, getting to know you, seeing your strength and your kindness and your grace, I find myself thinking about you in ways that go beyond friendship." Tessa's breath caught. "I am not saying this to make you uncomfortable," Owen continued quickly. "I know you have been through hell with Robert, and I know you need time to heal. I am not asking for anything from you. I just wanted to be honest because it did not feel right to keep it hidden. But nothing has to change. Your job is secure regardless, and I will never pressure you for more than you want to give." Tessa was silent for a long moment, processing his words. Then she surprised herself by saying, What if I told you that I have been having similar thoughts? Owen's eyes widened slightly. Have you? I did not want to. I told myself I would never trust another man, never open my heart again. But you have been so patient and kind, Owen. You have given me space to heal, but you have also shown me what a good man looks like. And somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing you as just my employer. Tessa. He breathed her name like a prayer. I do not want to rush you. We can take this as slow as you need. I appreciate that, but I think I have been ready for a while. I was just afraid to admit it. Owen reached out slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, and cupped her face gently in his hand. May I kiss you? In answer, Tessa closed the distance between them. The kiss was soft and sweet, nothing like the demanding kisses Robert had taken from her. This was a question, not a command, and she found herself answering enthusiastically. When they pulled apart, both were breathing harder. That was nice, Tessa said, then laughed at the understatement. Nice does not begin to cover it, Owen agreed. But I meant what I said about taking this slow. I want to court you properly, Tessa. I want to do this right. I would like that. Over the next months, Owen courted her with old-fashioned care. He brought her flowers from the meadow, took her on rides to beautiful spots on the ranch, sat with her in the evenings reading aloud or just talking. He kissed her sometimes, sweet, gentle kisses that made her feel cherished rather than possessed. He never pushed for more, always respecting her boundaries. Tessa found herself falling in love with this quiet, steady man. He was nothing like the grand passion Robert had promised, and that was exactly what she needed. Owen was real and solid and true. He showed his love through actions rather than words, though when he did speak of his feelings, they were sincere and deeply felt. Rosa noticed, of course, and approved heartily. That man has been alone too long, she told Tessa one day. He needs someone to love again, and you need someone who will treat you right. You are good for each other. Is it too soon? Tessa asked, voicing her fears. The annulment was only a few months ago. The heart knows its own timeline, Rosa said wisely. And you were emotionally finished with Robert long before the papers came through. Do not let fear keep you from happiness. Winter came, bringing cold nights and occasional snow. Tessa and Owen grew even closer, spending long evenings by the fire. He told her more about Sarah, about his grief and how he had worked through it, and she told him about the loneliness of losing her parents and the mistake of trying to fill that void with Robert. One evening in late January, as they sat together on the sofa, Owen pulled a small box from his pocket. I want to show you something, he said. But first, I need you to understand that this is not what you think it is, or rather, it is eventually, but not yet. Intrigued, Tessa watched as he opened the box. Inside was a beautiful ring, silver rather than gold, with a small turquoise stone set in an intricate band. This was my grandmother's, Owen said. My mother gave it to me before she died, told me to give it to the woman I wanted to spend my life with. I gave it to Sarah, and when she died, I put it away. I have not looked at it in years. Owen. I love you, Tessa. I am in love with you, and I want to marry you someday. But I know we need more time. You need to be sure this is what you want, that I am what you want. So I am not asking yet. I'm just showing you this ring and telling you that when you are ready, if you are ever ready, I will ask properly and I will mean it with everything in me. Tessa felt tears streaming down her face. I love you too. I have been afraid to say it, afraid to trust it, but I do. Then we have time to be sure. I am not going anywhere, and neither are you. He closed the box and set it aside, then pulled her close. They sat together in the firelight, and Tessa felt a peace she had never known before. This was what love was supposed to feel like, safe and warm and real. Spring came with wildflowers covering the meadows. Tessa had been at the ranch for nearly a year now, and it felt more like home than anywhere she had ever lived. She and Owen were openly affectionate now, holding hands, stealing kisses, making no secret of their relationship. Miguel and Tom treated it as the most natural thing in the world. One April morning, Tessa woke to find Owen already up and gone, which was unusual. She prepared breakfast, but he did not come in to eat with the others. Tom and Miguel exchanged knowing looks but said nothing. Finally, around mid-morning, Owen appeared at the kitchen door. "Will you come for a ride with me?" "Now, I have work to do. It can wait." "Please." Curious, Tessa changed into her riding clothes and met him at the barn. He had both horses saddled and ready. They rode out in silence, heading toward a part of the ranch she had not explored much, a high meadow with a view of the entire valley. When they arrived, Tessa gasped. Owen had set up a picnic, a blanket spread with food and a bottle of wine. Wildflowers had been gathered in a jar and everything looked beautiful and carefully planned. "Owen, this is lovely. What is the occasion?" "It has been exactly 1 year since I found that ring in the dirt outside the trading post. 1 year since I met you. I thought that deserved marking." Tessa felt her heart swell. "You remembered the exact date." "I remember everything about that day. How angry and hurt you looked, how determined, how brave you were, walking away from a bad situation even though you did not know what came next." He took her hands in his. "You have made this past year the happiest I have been in a long time, Tessa. You brought life back into my home and my heart, and I do not want to wait any longer to ask what I have wanted to ask for months." He released one of her hands to pull out the ring box, then sank down on one knee. "Tessa Anderson, I love you more than I thought it was possible to love again. You are strong and kind and brave, and every day with you is a gift. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing you what real love looks like?" Tessa was crying openly now, happy tears that she did not bother to wipe away. "Yes, yes, Owen, I will marry you." He slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly. Then he stood and swept her into his arms, kissing her with a passion they had carefully kept in check until now. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless and laughing. They sat on the blanket and ate lunch, making plans and dreaming out loud. They decided on a summer wedding, something simple at the ranch with just close friends. Tessa would write to an old friend in Santa Fe, and Owen would contact his brother in Texas. Rosa was already planning the food in her mind, they were sure. "I want to do this right," Owen said. "I want everyone to know that you are mine and I am yours, legally and properly." "I am not afraid anymore," Tessa said. "I know the difference now between a man who takes and a man who gives. You have shown me that." They rode back to the ranch in the late afternoon, and when they arrived, Miguel and Tom were waiting with Rosa, who had somehow already heard the news through that mysterious network of ranch-wife communication. "About time," Rosa declared, embracing them both. "I was beginning to think you would never ask." "I had to wait until she was ready," Owen said, smiling. "I have been ready for months," Tessa admitted. "I was just too stubborn to say so." The wedding took place in early July, almost exactly 2 years after the date inscribed on that ring in the dirt. It was a beautiful day, warm but not too hot, with a clear blue sky. They held the ceremony in the meadow where Owen had proposed, with wildflowers everywhere and the whole valley spread out below them. A traveling preacher performed the ceremony, and Tessa wore a simple white dress that she had made herself, with lace from fabric that Rosa had given her. Owen wore his best suit, looking handsome and nervous. Miguel stood as his best man and Rosa stood with Tessa. When it came time for the vows, Owen spoke first, his voice strong and clear. "Tessa, I vow to honor you and cherish you all the days of my life." I promise to be the kind of husband who makes you feel safe and loved. I will never take you for granted, and I will spend every day earning the trust you have placed in me. You are my home, my heart, and my future." Tessa's voice trembled but held as she made her own promises. "Owen, I vow to stand beside you through whatever comes. You showed me what real love looks like, what real strength is. You gave me a place to heal and then gave me a reason to hope again. I promise to love you with everything I am, for all the days we have together." When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Owen kissed her softly, and the small gathering cheered. They celebrated with a feast that Rosa had prepared, with music and dancing that lasted until the stars came out. That night, as they finally retired to the main bedroom that would now be theirs together, Tessa felt nothing but joy and anticipation. Owen was gentle and patient, making sure she felt safe and cherished. Their coming together was everything her first marriage had not been, full of tenderness and mutual care. Afterward, as they lay tangled together in the moonlight, Tessa traced the line of Owen's jaw with her finger. "I never thought I could be this happy," she said softly. "Neither did I. After Sarah died, I thought that part of my life was over, but you brought me back to life, Tessa." "We saved each other," she said. The first years of their marriage were good ones. Tessa continued to manage the household, but now as the mistress of the ranch rather than just an employee. She worked alongside Owen to make improvements, and they slowly built their property into one of the most successful ranches in the area. In the spring of 1880, Tessa discovered she was pregnant. She was terrified at first, having heard the stories of childbirth gone wrong, but Owen was steadfast in his support. He brought in a doctor from Tucson to stay nearby as her time approached, and he held her hand through the long hours of labor. Their son was born in September of 1880, a healthy baby with Owen's dark hair and Tessa's green eyes. They named him Henry after Owen's father, and Owen cried when he held his son for the first time. "I never thought I would have this again," he whispered. "Thank you, Tessa. Thank you for giving me a family." Henry was followed by a daughter 2 years later, whom they named Grace Sarah, honoring both Owen's first wife and the grace that had brought them together. Then another son, James, and finally another daughter, Rose, named for Rosa, who had become like a mother to Tessa. The ranch grew and prospered. Owen proved to be not just a good rancher but a shrewd businessman, and by the mid-1880s, they were able to expand their holdings significantly. They built a larger house, keeping the original as a bunkhouse for hands, and Tessa furnished it with care and love. One evening in 1887, almost 10 years after they first met, Tessa and Owen sat on the porch of their new house, watching their children play in the yard. Henry was 7 now, running and laughing with his younger siblings. Grace was helping little Rose chase butterflies while James attempted to climb a tree under his father's watchful eye. "You ever think about that day?" Owen asked. "When I found that ring?" "All the time," Tessa admitted. "I think about how close I came to just riding away, to never stopping in Fort Bowie at all. What if I had not stopped at the trading post? What if you had not seen the ring? I would like to think we would have found each other somehow. Some things are meant to be. Maybe. But I am grateful it happened the way it did. Even the hard parts, even Robert and that terrible year, because it led me to you." Owen took her hand, and she felt the coolness of the silver ring against her skin. She had never taken it off, not once in all these years. "Do you ever wonder what happened to him?" Owen asked. "To Robert? Sometimes, but not often. Rosa heard he left Arizona Territory a few years back, moved to California looking for gold. I hope he found what he was looking for, but mostly I just do not think about him. And the ring." "The gold one," Tessa smiled. "I sold it, remember? Used the money to buy fabric for curtains for the house, back when I was still just your housekeeper. Seemed fitting somehow, using it to make a real home instead of letting it sit as a reminder of a false one. Henry came running up to the porch, his face flushed with excitement. "Papa, can we go riding tomorrow? You promised to show me the north pasture." "I did promise that, did I not? All right, tomorrow we will go riding." "Can Mama come too, if she wants to?" "I want to." Grace called out, never one to be left behind. "We can all go," Tessa said, laughing. "Make it a family outing." As the children cheered and ran back to their play, Owen pulled Tessa closer and kissed her temple. "I love our life," he said simply. "So do I. Every chaotic, wonderful moment of it." They sat together as the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. The ranch spread out before them, land they had built into a home through hard work and love. In the distance, they could hear Miguel calling his own children in for supper, and the lowing of cattle settling down for the night. It was not the life Tessa had imagined for herself when she was a young girl in Santa Fe. It was better. It was real and solid and full of love, built on a foundation of respect and genuine partnership. Owen had shown her what marriage could be when both people chose each other every day, when love was demonstrated through actions as much as words. Later that night, after the children were all tucked into bed and the house was quiet, Tessa and Owen prepared for bed themselves. She sat at her dressing table, brushing out her hair, and watched in the mirror as Owen moved around the room. "You know what I was thinking today," she said. "What is that?" "That I should have thrown that ring away years earlier. If I had left Robert sooner, I could have found you sooner." Owen came to stand behind her, meeting her eyes in the mirror. Or maybe the timing was exactly right. Maybe we both needed to go through what we did to be ready for each other. You needed to know what you did not want, and I needed time to heal from Sarah. We found each other at exactly the right moment. You always know the right thing to say. Not always, but with you, it comes easier. You make me want to be the man you deserve. You already are that man. You were from the very beginning. They climbed into bed together, fitting against each other with the ease of long practice. Tessa thought back to that scared, angry woman who had thrown away her wedding ring in the dirt outside a trading post, never imagining that the man who would find it would become her salvation. She had thrown away a symbol of false promises and chains. What she had received in return was real love, true partnership, and a life beyond anything she had dared to hope for. The gold ring was gone, sold, and forgotten. But the silver ring on her finger, worn smooth by years of wear, represented everything good that had come after. The years continued to pass, each one bringing new challenges and joys. Henry grew into a responsible young man who loved the ranch as much as his father did. Grace showed a talent for healing and talked about becoming a doctor someday, a lofty goal but one that Owen and Tessa encouraged. James was the wild one, always getting into scrapes but with a good heart. And Rose, the baby, was her mother's shadow, learning everything she could about running a household and managing people. By the turn of the century, Owen and Tessa were in their 40s, graying but still vital. The ranch had become one of the most successful in the territory, employing dozens of hands and running thousands of head of cattle. They had weathered droughts and hard winters, disease and economic downturns, but they had done it together. Miguel had retired, living in a comfortable cottage on the property with Rosa, and Tom had eventually married and started his own small ranch nearby. New hands had come and gone, but the heart of the operation remained the same. Owen and Tessa, partners in every sense of the word. One evening, as they prepared for a party celebrating their 20th wedding anniversary, Tessa found herself alone in the bedroom, looking at her reflection. She wore a beautiful green dress that brought out her eyes, and her hair, now streaked with silver, was pinned up elegantly. Owen came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "You are as beautiful now as the day I met you. You are a terrible liar, but I love you for it." "I am not lying. You are beautiful, Tessa. More so because now I know every part of you, every expression and gesture. I know the way you bite your lip when you are worried, how you hum while you work, the way you laugh with your whole body when something really amuses you. That makes you more beautiful to me than any surface appearance ever could. We have built a good life, have we not? The best life. And it all started because you were brave enough to throw away something that was not serving you, and I was lucky enough to find the evidence." The party that night was a grand affair. Friends and neighbors came from miles around, and there was music and dancing under strings of lanterns. Their children, all grown or nearly so, organized toasts and embarrassed them with sweet speeches about what good parents they had been. As Tessa and Owen danced together, moving slowly to a gentle waltz, she laid her head on his shoulder and closed her eyes. "Happy," he murmured, "so happy. More than I ever imagined possible. We should do this again for our 30th, and our 40th, and every one after until we are too old to dance. We will never be too old to dance." They stayed on the floor as one song became another, not wanting the moment to end. Around them, their friends and family celebrated, their children danced and laughed, and the ranch they had built together hummed with life and joy. In 1902, Henry married a schoolteacher from Tucson, a smart and capable young woman named Eleanor. They gave Owen and Tessa their first grandchild the following year, a girl they named Tessa after her grandmother. Holding that tiny baby, Tessa felt the circle of life completing itself in the most beautiful way. Grace did indeed become a doctor, one of the first female doctors in Arizona, and she opened a practice in Phoenix while staying closely connected to the family. James took over more of the ranch operations as Owen began to slow down a bit, and Rose married a lawyer and moved to Tucson, though she visited often. By 1910, Owen and Tessa were in their early 50s, and life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. They had survived the transition of Arizona from territory to state, had seen automobiles appear on the streets of Tucson, had watched the world change in ways they never could have imagined. But some things remained constant. Their love for each other, their commitment to their family, the land they had built their life on. Every evening they still sat together on the porch, holding hands and watching the sunset, talking about everything and nothing. One such evening, Tessa suddenly said, "I want to go to Fort Bowie." Owen looked at her in surprise. "Why? I do not know. I just feel like I should see it again, see where it all started. All right, we can go tomorrow if you like." They rode into Fort Bowie the next day, though it looked different now than it had 32 years earlier. The town had grown, become more civilized. The saloon where Robert had lived was now a proper hotel. The trading post had expanded into a larger general store. Tessa and Owen walked to the spot where the old hitching post had been, now replaced by a modern structure with water troughs. Tessa stood there for a long moment, remembering the anger and fear of that day, how lost she had felt. "Right there," Owen said quietly. "That is where I saw it gleaming in the dirt. I almost did not stop. I was in a hurry to get home, but something made me look twice." "Fate," Tessa said. "Or luck, or grace. Whatever it was, I am grateful for it." Tessa reached for his hand. "I threw away a ring that represented lies and pain. You found it and gave me back hope. That seems like a fair trade. More than fair. Best deal I ever made." They walked through the town, noting the changes but mostly remembering how things had been. No one recognized Tessa, which was just as well. She was a different person now, confident and secure in ways that young, frightened girl had never been. As they prepared to ride back to the ranch, Tessa took one last look at the spot where Owen had found the ring. "Thank you," she said softly, not quite sure who she was thanking. Owen, fate, God, her younger self for being brave enough to leave. Maybe all of them. For what? Owen asked. For finding me. For seeing me. For loving me even when I was too scared to love you back right away. For giving me time to heal and trust again. For being everything Robert was not. For our children, our grandchildren, our life together. For all of it. Owen pulled her into his arms right there on the street, not caring who saw. "You do not need to thank me. Loving you has been the greatest privilege of my life." They rode home as the sun set behind them, the ranch waiting for them as it always did. Over the next years, they continued to build their legacy. More grandchildren came, filling the ranch with noise and laughter. Owen taught them all to ride, just as he had taught their parents. Tessa told them stories and baked cookies and provided the steady, loving presence she had always wanted from a grandmother. As they moved into their 60s and then 70s, Owen and Tessa grew old together with grace. Their hair turned white, their steps grew slower, but their love never dimmed. They still held hands, still sat together in the evenings, still looked at each other with the wonder of people who knew how lucky they were. In the spring of 1925, on a perfect April day that reminded them of their wedding day, Owen and Tessa celebrated their 48th anniversary. All their children were there, along with what seemed like dozens of grandchildren and even a few great-grandchildren. The party was held in the meadow where Owen had proposed, and Tessa wore a dress that Rose had made for her. As the afternoon wore on, Owen pulled Tessa aside for a moment of quiet. 48 years, he said, nearly half a century. Best years of my life, Tessa said firmly, every single one. Do you ever regret it, that you did not have more adventure, more excitement? This has been the greatest adventure I could imagine. Building a life with you, raising our children, watching them build lives of their own. What could be more exciting than that? Owen kissed her softly. I love you, Tessa Hayes. I will love you until my last breath and beyond. And I love you. Always and forever. And I mean that in a way I never could before I met you. They stood together in the meadow where so much of their story had unfolded, surrounded by the family and life they had created together. The silver ring on Tessa's finger caught the sunlight, throwing small rainbows across her face, and she remembered a different ring, a gold one that had represented only pain. That ring was long gone, lost to time. But what it had led to was here, real and solid and beautiful. Her children, her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren, all of them products of a love story that had started with a ring thrown away in anger, and a kind man who had stopped to pick it up. As the sun set on their celebration, painting the sky in brilliant colors, Tessa leaned against Owen and watched their family. Henry was teaching his grandson to dance, while Grace laughed with her daughter about something. James and his wife were corralling their youngest children, and Rose was helping set out food for the evening meal. We did good, Owen said softly. We did very good. They lived many more years together, eventually passing quietly in their sleep within months of each other, both well into their 80s. Their children buried them side by side on a hill overlooking the ranch, where they could watch over the land they had loved so much. The ranch stayed in the family, passed down through generations, and the story of Owen and Tessa became family legend. How they had met, how he had found her wedding ring in the dirt, how she had explained why she threw it away. How he had offered her safety, and she had eventually offered him her heart. How they had built an empire of love that lasted far beyond their own lifetimes. The silver ring with the turquoise stone was passed down as an heirloom, worn by daughters and great-granddaughters who heard the story and understood what it represented. True love, the kind built on respect and trust and daily choosing each other. The kind that lasted. And somewhere, lost in the earth of Arizona or melted down and reformed into something else entirely, was a gold ring with an inscription about forever. But the promise it had made was false, while the promise represented by the silver ring had been true. In the end, Tessa had thrown away something worthless and found something priceless. She had left behind pain and discovered joy. She had walked away from a man who wanted to own her and found a man who wanted to partner with her. And all of it had started with a moment of anger, a ring thrown in the dirt, and a cowboy kind enough to pick it up and ask why. It was a love story for the ages, born in the hard soil of the Arizona Territory and flowering into something beautiful that lasted generations. A reminder that sometimes the worst moments of our lives can lead to the best ones, that courage is sometimes just taking the next step forward, and that real love, when you find it, is worth every risk. Owen and Tessa's story became a touchstone for their descendants, a reminder of where they came from and what was possible when two people committed to building something real together. The ranch they built still stood, though it had changed and grown over the years. But the love that founded it remained, echoing through time, as permanent and solid as the mountains themselves.